The first CD to go on sale in the good old US of A was...
They don't have a CD buyer anymore. They're not going to buy these CDs and then stock them and make money only if they sell them. What is this world coming to?
Broadcasting from Nashville, Tennessee, offering a glimpse inside the music industry, shedding light on things they don't want you to know, and exposing some of the industry's biggest secrets. You're listening to the Turned Up Podcast, presented by Real Sound Productions. Here are your hosts, Jake Jones.
That's right, you were one of the original Amoeba.
And Robert Venable.
Yeah, I remember that year, 1877. That was a good year.
We are back for part 2 of CDs Are Dead, right? If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, make sure you go back and listen to part 1 so that you're all caught up and enjoy the continuation of last week's episode. I think we need to take a step forward into the digital age.
We are about to hit something that's all too common these days and that we all know, very familiar.
So speaking of the digital age, you and I, we are producers. We are engineers. We mix, we record. At the end of the day, we have one very important job above all other jobs. Make music great again.
Make music great.
Make it sound good, right? Like,
yeah, we have
anything
to.
We're recording, nobody really cares what we do as long as it sounds good.
And we're working primarily in the digital realm. Like most of everything that you and I do and other people like us are doing in the digital realm. We're not cutting the tape anymore. We're not pressing the vinyl as much, although that might be changing. Stay tuned. We'll talk about that. But everything we're doing ends up in the computer somehow.
Right. All inside of a really expensive metal electric box. You're using Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I'm using Cubase. My brother Jeff, he uses Ableton Live, and I know a lot of Logic users and even Studio One users now. There is one instrument that no matter what genre you're in, there's a place for it, and it can instantly make just about anything sound better. And what is it?
And well, this is a little secret, actually, and I've told this to a lot of my clients. Go home, listen to your favorite albums on whatever you're listening to, the 4-track, the phonograph, whatever you've got, and listen to how many out of 10 songs have a tambourine in them. And it's going to blow your mind. Any genre.
Metal.
Unless it's a cappella. Like rock, metal, country, polka, hip-hop. Listen for a tambourine, especially in the chorus. And it might be buried and hard to hear. There's most likely a tambourine in the song. But the thing is, when you're in the studio, if you're mixing an album that you didn't produce, sometimes they forget to record that or assume you'll add it in the mix. And that's a pain in my bottom.
It is. It is such a pain. You know, I have right behind me here, I have a tambourine. Sounds great. But if I want to record it, it depends on how much I care and what role it's going to play in the song. It's like I got to set up a mic, I got to run cables, I need to turn preamps on.
Because newsflash, every song is not the same tempo, so you can't just use the same recorded tambourine and throw it into every song.
Right, and so I have to do that if I want a live tambourine sound. Otherwise, I have to sift through tambourine samples, pull them into whatever software I'm going to use to then make a MIDI track and then map them out and set the volumes and the timing to make it sound blah, blah, blah. Like whether I'm producing for a band or if I'm mixing a project. Because the truth is, as we were saying earlier, a tambourine in any genre can open up a chorus, can open up a portion of a song to just make it pop.
Create some energy.
So, what are we talking about?
So we found a solution to this. It's Can O Tambos. Can O Tambos, which is actually not a can of anything. It's not even a real can. It's just a sample pack of over 100 different tempos. Every tempo from 50 beats per minute to 154 beats per minute. It's 105, I believe, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
Individually recorded at all of those tempos. Tambourine loops that you can just loop infinitely for like a 30-minute long song if you want to and never hear a scene, never hear where it loops.
And that's what's beautiful about them. Now, I started using them about a month ago, and I have literally I've used these loops in every song that I've done. They come pre-processed with EQ and compression and already sounding awesome. But if you have a way that you like to process your tambourine yourself, they also come dry. They come in different bit depths and sample rates. And again, they come in 105 different tempos, and they are seamless. I don't have to worry about crossfading them. I literally just, I have a folder, I just drag it, drop it into my DAW, and then I can just duplicate it or whatever I need to do. And then Can O Tambos also just came out this week.
Yeah, they did the orange crushed Can O Tambos, which I think is genius. Orange crushed. That's kind of funny to me.
When I was in We As Human, I was responsible for putting our live tracks together, and we had a song called Zombie. John Cooper, the singer for Skillet, actually guest vocaled on the song. It was a really cool song, fan favorite, and there was always this really cool sound in the song, and I didn't know what it was whenever you just listen to the recording, but I got all of the stems, all this stuff that was recorded, and our engineer, after we had left, had dropped this tambourine sample in and then bit crushed it. So it didn't even sound like a tambourine unless you were listening to it by itself. It was just this really cool effect.
Yeah, these orange crushed Can O Tambos samples are actually, there's 3 different variations, A, B, and C, that have been bit crushed or distorted to a different level. So some still sound like tambourines, some sound really loopy and more distorted, and some sound like they were run through a guitar cab. Because guess what? I think they actually were. But it's cool for, like, I use it for songwriting when I'm demoing out a song or producing ideas, saying, hey, this would be cool. What if we do this? And I'm kind of building a beat around some of those crushed tambourine loops.
Now, listen, Robert, you and I, we know this better than anyone. Time is money, especially in the studio.
Absolutely, yeah.
You set your price, and the more efficiently you can get a project completed, the higher your margin is.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do is spend a bunch of time putting tambourine samples together. So right now, if you go to canotambos.com, that's CANOTAMBOS.com, you can put in the promo code turned up,
one word as a promo code,
to get 20% off either of these packs. I'm telling you, they sound great. And so for less than the price that you can take your beautiful lady out to McDonald's for your anniversary.
Or man, if you're a woman listening to this, or another man listening to this. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
I mean, it's fine if that's who you are.
Absolutely.
I'm serious, for less than the cost of that.
So you can get 2 Happy Meals and the Can O Tambos for a $20 bill.
For less than a $20 bill.
Yeah, you're right.
And you have these amazing tambourine loops that are timeless that you can drop into your sessions. Canotambos.com, promo code turned up. Now, to get back to our topic here.
So it's 1982 now. I am actually 1 year old in real human life at this point, not podcast age. And the compact disc makes an appearance in the real world. It's a digital optical disc data storage format that was co-developed by Philips and Sony together. So James T. Russell, which is an American inventor, had been credited with inventing the first system to record digital information on an optical transparent foil, which is actually what makes it kind of metallic looking when you look at a CD, makes that little shine.
And I just feel like we have to say this.
Go ahead.
Compact disc. That is what CD stands for. When we talk about CDs,
it's unfortunate that we have to say that.
We're talking about compact discs.
Yes.
Continue.
So that foil holds this information and is lit from behind by a high-power halogen lamp, and that happened in 1966, patented in 1970. So that technology was kind of developed a good 10, 15, almost 20 years before the first compact disc actually came to fruition. So after a lawsuit, Sony and Philips licensed James Russell's patents and made the CD. So the first test pressing was of the Berlin Philharmonic. So they had this orchestra, which was the first CD test pressed at all, ever. The first compact disc.
I wonder how much those go for. I wonder if you can find one.
Probably some like executive at Sony or Philips has it in their personal collection and will never let it go. I'm guessing. I don't know. But the first public demonstration of the CD was definitely not the Berlin Philharmonic. It was a Bee Gees album, Living Eyes, and that was broadcast on a BBC show.
So in 1982, the first CDs go out for sale.
What was it?
It is Billy Joel's album, 52nd Street.
And that was in Japan.
That was in Japan in 1982. They did release that album in 1983 in Europe and the USA. However,
go on.
The first CD to go on sale in the good old US of A that's right, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. The first CD to sell in America, of course. Makes perfect sense.
But the first CD to ever sell 1 million copies is none other than Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms.
I did not know that. That's kind of interesting that I didn't know that, it being the first platinum CD.
Right. And actually, CD sales from that point forward just, skyrocketed. I remember being at a dinner party with some of my parents' friends, and they had a CD player. And it's the first time I've ever seen a physical CD. I'm like, this is what I've heard about. I've heard about these. May I touch it? They're like, don't touch it. It's like you have to hold it more delicately than you could a photograph. Like you don't touch it because it could smear something. So you put your finger in the hole. They were telling me how to take it out of the case. Like you put your finger right here and you hold it on the outside side only. Only touch the edges. Don't touch the silver part at all. So I was holding it like a baby, just looking at it and like, this is so shiny, like a baseball card, one of those special ultra rare ones.
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, it became more and more popular. I'm sure the prices started to go down a little bit more. They're more readily available and mass produced. And they kind of just skyrocketed and then peaked and around the turn of the millennium, 1999, 2000, at which point they were doing $13.2 billion in sales.
Oh, my word. I actually remember our first CD player was 1994. A family friend of ours bought my stepdad for his birthday this whole... I mean, they don't even sell anything like this anymore, but it was like a 6 CD changer, and it had AM, FM radio, and a dual deck cassette player. So you could have 2 tapes, or you could record one onto the other if you wanted to.
It was a huge stack, electrical stack of equipment.
Yes. And I had 2 separate like cabinet speakers. It was a big deal.
Sounds nice.
Yes, and we were the first ones of anyone I knew that had a CD. I still have a CD that was released in 1994 by a family friend as a blue CD. Anyway, so they peaked in 1999, 2000.
As we all know, sales started dropping a little bit.
I do want to, what came around 1999, 2000? What was that? Was a cat? Wasn't that their theme? It was a cat, right?
Yeah, Napster hit the market. And that was peer-to-peer sharing of MP3s, digital files. So on the CD are digital files, WAV files, recorded at 44.1 kilohertz per second. We could get it all into how this is recorded, but Redbook style, which is 44.1, 16-bit resolution. So these are pretty large files. I mean, you could fit, an album's worth of music on the album, on the CD.
To put it into perspective, a song, a normal song length roughly is about 45 megabytes at that resolution.
That makes sense. And these CDs usually hold, about, 700 megabytes was a CDR?
Yeah.
But you have to have room for other metadata and stuff like that if you wanted to have it on there, which doesn't take up a lot of space, but you're going to do at max 20 songs.
Max.
It's like
that's a long CD.
12 to 18 songs, if they're shorter songs, is pretty much what a record was at the time, an album at the time. So entered the MP3, sales of the CDs go way down because the MP3 are more compressed, right? So the MP3s are taking these same songs, your favorite Boyz II Men song, which was at, what did you say, 45 megabytes?
Roughly, yeah.
Down to a tenth of that.
Yeah.
Like for about 5 megabytes, you could have a whole song. And what it's doing, it's chopping out the information. Like if you think of a waveform and you have to connect the dots, it's taking some of those dots out. So it still sounds like a song, but they're taking a lot of those out to make the file size smaller. So you could transfer those from, Jake, your house to my house without ever having to walk down the street and hand you a mixtape or a mixed CD. We would get on one of these peer sharing sites, which was completely illegal now, was kind of a gray area at that point. I mean, they weren't happy about it, but like Napster, and we would connect our computers and we could send files to complete strangers or upload things that we had in our collection in exchange for ones we didn't.
Well, it's so interesting to look at Napster because they are equal parts the biggest villains in all of the music industry as a whole, the worst thing that ever happened financially to music. And at the same time, they really kind of
revolutionized the industry, though.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, Spotify, I don't know if it would exist today without Napster or what it would look like had that never happened.
What would iTunes be?
Exactly, yeah.
Would it be anything? Would it just be WAV files? I mean, but so we should probably rewind. And Jake, tell me a little bit more about the history of MP3. Like what happened to MP2? I don't know. Like why MP3, right?
So MP3 stands for MPEG, MPEG Audio Layer 3. MPEG stands for Motion Picture Expert Group. It is the compressed audio standard. It reduces CD audio file size by a factor of 12, like we said.
Just talked about that.
Without losing much quality.
Now that's arguable. Like in school for audio production, one class, which is probably one of my most memorable moments in this audio school that I went to, They set us down and they said, listen to this song and listen to this song. Same song, sample, I guess I should say. A or B, which one sounded better to you, or what did you hear differently? And they were playing different MP3s at different resolutions. So 128-bit versus 160 or 190 or 62 or whatever it may be. And I remember listening to them and being like, wow, the cymbals sound a little different in that one, or the high end, or this one's completely garbled, or this one sounded really clear. And he's like, well, this one was this and this one was this. And we could hear the difference playing them back to back like that. But I don't know. Now I can hear it because I've done this long enough to where someone sends me an MP3, I can tell if it's total crap or if it's hi-fi, like a really high resolution wave or something. You can just hear the difference. But I wonder if you gave it to the average 16-year-old driving in their convertible and said, hey, play this song, if they even notice.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't. And it's funny thinking back to this time when MP3s were first coming out and people were downloading illegal music. I remember, at the time, the media, there was not a database where music was getting released to the internet immediately. The only way music got onto the internet was if someone purchased the CD, ripped it onto their computer, and then uploaded it. And in that entire process, you have to select basically how high of quality do you want to rip it off the CD, and then again, how high of quality do you want to upload it to the internet. And so then by the time you downloaded it, you had to select how high quality you wanted to download it. And by the time you actually listened to it on your computer or burned it to a CD yourself, most of the time it just sounded like garbage. It was just garbled up.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking a YouTube video. There actually is a YouTube video of this experiment where you take the YouTube video and you download it and repost it, and then download it and repost that, and download it. Like the more times you do it, it's just so degraded. Like
it's where you're taking a picture of a picture.
It gets garbled and garbled and garbled, and the interpretation digitally, where it's trying to connect those dots, might be slightly varied from where they really were the first time.
Starts connecting the wrong dots,
and things they start connecting A to C instead of A to B, and then your giraffe looks like a hippo.
Well, Robert, a perfect example of this very thing is go back and listen to the first few episodes of the Turned Up podcast.
Oh yeah, exactly.
We initially had to try to conserve space, so we were exporting at 64-bit resolution MP3, and the sound quality is significantly less. We doubled that. Now what you're listening to is 128-bit resolution. Whereas most of the time, if you want a high quality MP3 download off of iTunes, you're looking at like 192 or something in that range.
Yeah, when you're done listening to this episode, go back and listen to episode 1. We didn't change our microphones or the preamps or anything.
Yeah, all the way up to 500, 512 something.
Yeah, you can get pretty good ones.
So in 1987, the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany began research codenamed Eureka, Project EU-147, in January 1988, 1 month before I was born.
Dun, 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 dun.
MPEG was established as a subcommittee of the International Standards Organization, International Electrotechnical Commission.
That's a lot of words.
That is a lot of words. November 26, 1996, United States, patent issued for MP3.
It's becoming a real thing.
1998, Fraunhofer started to enforce their patent rights. All developers of MP3 encoders or rippers and decoders or players now have to pay a licensing fee to Fraunhofer.
Whoa. So anybody at all who made something in the United States or anywhere that could play or encode or decode these MP3s had to pay a fee to this German guy. This German company, sorry.
Which they had to have been making bank, because the thing is, as you could go online now and download MP3s, the MP3 player did not exist yet.
I remember buying an MP3 player. Before, I had an off-brand before I had the Apple one, which often happens. Apple kind of perfects the thing before it puts one out. So it might not be the first to the game, but it'll come out with a better player in the game.
And so if you wanted to listen to your MP3s in the car, your car CD player had to be able to play MP3s off of a CD.
Off of the CDR.
Which means that your CD burner had to be able to read and burn MP3s onto the disc, and then your player had to be able to play them. And so a lot of people had aftermarket CD players so that they could play, because you could fit 50 or 100 MP3s onto a CD.
Oh, yeah.
And
several of my favorite albums, here it is on one CD.
Yeah.
Man, that was a good time in my life.
MP3 CDs. So I imagine Fraunhofer was making bank.
Right.
So in 1999, February 99, a record company called Sub Pop
I like Sub Pop.
Yeah, they were the first to distribute music tracks in the MP3 format.
So they were the first to actually embrace this new format, saying this might be something. Let's do something with it. It's smaller file size, so that's less bandwidth on their servers or however they're distributing them. And they just wanted to be the groundbreakers, so they did it.
Yeah, 1999, portable MP3 players appear for the first time.
Poof.
And then, of course, 1999 as well, Napster is invented by Sean Parker and Sean Fanning, which allowed the transfer of digital files, including MP3s, from one hard drive to another, which I think is really why you see CD sales peaking 99, 2000. Bam, MP3 drops on the scene.
Right at the millennium.
Napster drops on the scene.
Yep.
And then something starts happening to CDs.
A wildly popular website called Napster has changed the landscape for pop music fans who download music on the internet. Through Napster, digital recordings copied by web users can be copied by anyone else accessing the site, creating a copying frenzy. And it's all free to the user. Among the lawsuits pending against the company is an action filed by the legendary heavy metal group Metallica. This week, the band insisted that Napster block access to more than 300,000 fans who have downloaded Metallica music through the site. The company said it would.
So CD sales drop. So between 2000 and 2008, major label CD sales declined by 20% overall. So that's a big chunk of the market.
When a quarter, yeah.
When a fifth, almost a fourth of your entire like album sales just falls off the books, you start to panic a little bit. Do we embrace like Sub Pop, the MP3? Or do we stick to our guns? No, we're making CDs. Dang it, you guys are going to buy them.
Well,
that's the big debate. And that's kind of the point of this podcast here. That we've caught up to speed. If you're bored now, this is where it all turns the page.
In 2016, CD sales fell to 1.2 billion. Downloads fell to 876 million. But streaming services like Spotify, iTunes Music, Pandora, etc., rose to lead the market at 2.3 billion. So that
that's just about double what CD sales were in 1 year. Those Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff, just about double that.
Which if you look at those numbers, let's really quick, just for fun here, let's go to CD sales 99, 2000 at 13.2 billion.
13.2 billion. That's a lot of money.
So let's do a little bit of math here. In 2016, 1.2 billion, 876 million, and 2.3 billion are now where all the money is coming in for music.
Which totaling is still around 4.5 billion.
That's less than a third of how much money is coming in from the sale or listening to of purchasable music in at this point 2016. So in 16 years.
That's nuts. So weird. It happens so gradually yet so fast.
Right?
Why though? Let's talk about some theories on why this is happening and where it might be going. So I have a theory that there are two motives to create music, right? As musicians, producers, songwriters, whatever you may be making music, you're either doing it for one, money. Like there are some fake bands out there who are just putting together music just for the sole purpose of making a living. They don't care about the art. They don't care about telling a story or any of that. But the flip side, there are people who are very creative and artsy and who are making it for the art of music. So whereas if you're creating an album for the creation of art, you might be making a full album in order to tell a story. Like song number 1 sets up song number 2, and then a breakup happens, and song number 3 and 4 and 5 are all about that. But then you find a new girl, and song number 6 and 7 are about that, and then a little problem in paradise. So song 8 takes you down the wrong road, and I don't know. All this
I like
kind of
where
stuff.
this is going.
Thank you.
I'm enthralled.
Well,
I'm on the edge of my seat.
So it might take you on a journey, but with these streams happening in iTunes Music and Spotify and on-demand music, if you want to call it that, where you kind of pick and choose the songs that you want, the songs you've heard on the radio, or maybe the ones that aren't on the radio, you don't get to create an album like that anymore. So people are picking out, I like song number 4, number 9. You're not getting the whole story as maybe the artist intended. So maybe the artists aren't making albums that tell stories anymore. Suddenly, the market shifts to money. So this is my theory, where I think that now everybody, I'm not saying everybody, but in general, the albums that you're seeing are less created out of art and more created for money. Because they say, hey, if you're just going to buy singles, we're just going to write singles. We're not going to write an album that tells a story anymore. It takes you on a journey, like people used to listen to on vinyl or cassettes or CDs.
Well, yeah. Well, I have my record player, and probably a lot of you listening have record players because they are making a comeback. They are becoming more popular. And the thing is, you don't skip a song on a record. I mean, if you're really good and really care that much, you can look really closely and see the grooves,
see the
where
gap.
the songs, the gap, and you can see where the songs change, and then try to lay your needle down right in the gap to get to a certain song, and you have to count out, the chunks of grooves to know which track you know what I mean? Like, you just don't do that. You lay the needle down at the beginning of the record, you let it play through all of one side, and then when it's done, you have to flip it over to hear the other side. So you're going to listen in order, and track order was a big deal. It was very important because
there were band meetings and label meetings that are all just about what order the songs will be in. And I mean, even our band, Jake, when we had our song list and had to put them on a record in order to make sense sonically or to tell a story or whatever it may be, for us, it wasn't so much telling a story. It was, we want to go from this song to this song or from this song to that song. And we did. We spent some time looking at it, and then we landed on an order, and that's what it is. And we were happy with it.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I can say that I know with 100% certainty, and you do as well, we both work in the songwriting business. A lot of records across every genre now have any given number of songwriters that are different from song to song on an album. So it's like you and I may write a song for, Brad Paisley, but then so are 10 or 12 or 20 other writers for all the other songs.
They're not calling us album writers.
Right. They're not calling us either to say, what was that song about so that we can continue this story?
No, or what were the other 10 songs on the record so we can make this one fit? Nope.
And so they're looking for is singles. And you kind of have to as a band now. It's like every one of these songs has to be good enough to be a single on its own. There used to be a term called an album cut, which just simply meant it's a good song.
It's kind of a filler song.
It's not going to be It's not going to be on the radio, and because it's maybe it doesn't have as strong a hook, but it's got other things that are interesting about it.
Used to be called B-sides in the vinyl days.
Yeah, yep. And so you put all the best songs on side A, all the other ones on side B. And for me personally, as having grown up listening to cassette tapes and then later CDs, I loved all the B-sides. I loved all the filler songs because you buy the record for the singles and then you fall in love with the fillers.
Yeah, you get to know the band kind of almost personally through their music because that's probably more of their intent as a sound for the band are these B-sides, but the label's choices were the A-sides. Like, well, these are going to sell you. Then you can be yourself on side B.
And now it doesn't exist. Now every song on an album is intended to be the best song on the whole album, every last one.
And that's a catch-22 because the consumers are only buying singles, but that's because the artist is only making singles. And they're only making singles because you're only buying singles. So it's just going to be this huge, endless loop, if you will, of creating songs without creating storylines.
So this is happening. I guess this means CDs are dying, right?
If I had to say yes or no, I would say yes, to an extent. I mean, there's a caveat there.
Let's look at some quick statistics here, and I mean quick. In 2014, digital sales, which is streaming and downloads combined, surpassed CD sales globally for the first time. So in 2014, fewer people bought CDs than purchased their song on iTunes or just streamed it. Between 2016 and 2017, sales dropped from 1.2 billion and sales down to 85.4 million. Now get that in 1 year.
Whoa.
1.2 billion down to 85.4 million. That's like a 90% drop.
Yeah, that's a good sale at Target.
In 2018, this year in July,
this is huge news.
Best Buy is no longer going to stock CDs in their stores.
And speaking of Target, also the same time, will only carry those CDs if they're on consignment. So labels aren't just going to send them there. Distributors aren't going to send them there anymore just to sell.
Target's saying, you own them. They're still your CDs. We'll sell them and give you your cut.
Yeah, no more. We're not they don't have a CD buyer anymore. They're not going to buy these CDs and then stock them and make money only if they sell them. What is this world coming to?
Well, and so many record labels now even are saying to bands, hey, we're not going to press your CD anymore. That was a big thing, was Atlantic or even New Day under As We Ascend's deal. They press our CDs. They have a manufacturer that manufactures them, and then we get them from the label and sell them at shows or whatever, where they distribute them to stores. because stores aren't selling them as much. They're just not selling. These labels are saying, we're not going to make CDs anymore. It's just a big waste of money. It's a waste of time, when most of all the money that we're making are coming from online, digital sales, downloads, or streams, which streams now are the most popular way for people to listen to music.
And I have to be honest, I'm not downloading MP3s. I don't download anything to my phone. I don't download anything to my computer. Oh, very rarely would I. Unless I need it for some reason. But I'm streaming through Apple Music. That's the company I choose to use. They pay their artists better, and they have a wider selection, in my opinion, of songs that I want to hear. And in my car, I'm streaming via Bluetooth or an aux cable sometimes, but mostly Bluetooth, straight in there, because my car, newsflash, does not have a CD player. And
that's not uncommon. For the last few years now, all auto manufacturers have been phasing out the CD player in their vehicles. If you can still find one with a CD player in it, you're lucky. Or you have to buy an aftermarket.
Or the entertainment package that comes with a CD player for some reason, if you're into that. Or if they have a CD player, it might be because it's a minivan or an SUV that has a DVD player built into it. And since the technology is very similar, it's just as easy to say, hey, play a CD and a DVD by putting this in there.
So where do CDs live still? Where is still a place that people are buying CDs?
Live shows. As a touring band, you and I both know this, that when you're playing a show, the fans want to leave with a souvenir. They want to leave with something. If it's an autograph, signing shirts, sometimes they're worried that it'll smear or that it'll wash off, so that they have you sign the artwork on the CD or the CD case. So I think live music has a very still relative place for CD production. Yeah, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, that's where you definitely will sell the majority of your CDs if you're a band. And there's something in the psyche that just feels different about holding music in your hands. And it's even to say that sounds so weird now because we never do.
Well, I mean, it's a good analogy would be the Kindles or whatever it may be that you're reading these ebooks on versus holding a physical copy of a book and turning pages, the feeling of paper between your fingers. With this music, with these CDs, people want to look at the album artwork. What went into the production of this? Sometimes there's pictures of the recording scenes or the band members or lyrics that they can read along with, or the thank you notes, like who's inspired these musicians that we look up to. And then holding the CD, like there's music on a disc. There's music that I can listen to on a disc, and I can play it here. I can play it here. Can't play it in my car anymore, but I can play it somewhere else if I drive in my car. There's that physical, tangible thing. And we asked people about this. We said, should CDs die?
We did.
And we got a lot of replies that we should probably talk about.
We did get a lot of replies. I just want to say, we'll get into this because some people mentioned this. There is, I have several CD binders. I don't even know where they are.
I think one's keeping my coffee table level.
So these are binders with pages of CD sleeves. And, there was some people would put the CD, booklet behind the disc.
Oh, I did that. That was me.
In front of the disc.
Mine was behind. So I probably scratched up the plastic.
Well, which most people don't understand or realize that
if the CD's scratched,
the disc was printed on, or the audio portion, the foil was on the
artwork side.
The artwork side. The other side was just clear plastic.
So if you scratched up the clear, and this is a life hack for you. If you've scratched your CD and you can't play it, and it's scratched on the clear side, I guess, the side that you would turn over, that the artwork's not on. If that side's scratched, you can buff it out with turtle wax. Anything you'd buff a car scratch out with, and probably play it just fine because it's just the laser can't read it through the scratch properly. But if the side with the artwork is scratched, then you're kind of screwed.
Life hack. I'm just thinking, how many people are listening to this? How many younger people are listening to this thinking, what
cares?
Are you talking about? Well, and
I still don't even know what a compact disc is.
There were entire industries that just sold products to clean CDs. Yes, do you remember that?
Yeah, for like $10 at Walmart, you could buy a CD restoration kit.
I have one in that trunk right there. No, but I had CD binders, and it was like, oh, we're going on a road trip, you and your buddy, whatever. Like everybody brings their CD binders, and
Those are the days, man.
You have whoever was in, if you're in a van, whoever was in the passenger seat was the DJ. And once you got done with an album, you were excited you had your CD up next and you passing it up to the front of the van.
And now it's if you can reach the aux cord with your phone, you can be a DJ.
It's just such a good time. But yeah, so there isn't that anymore. Computers don't have disc players. I had to purchase
That's right.
an external disc player.
I'm looking at mine right now.
And burner.
I have a MacBook Pro, brand new, 2017, and there's no slot for a disc. And this is a professional version of a computer. And there's nothing. I don't know how I would install anything on here if I needed to. I guess I have to download it.
That's right. And I want to say, as a 30-year-old, that my nostalgic bone says, oh, don't kill the CDs. Like we got to keep them. We got to keep some sort of tangible recording medium to be able to listen to, because it's good. It's tangible. But honestly,
genius idea, Jake. We need to put our podcast out on a disc set.
Yes. Cassette tape. But the thing is, if we put it on vinyl or cassette, it would sell better.
We should. We're going to be the first podcast ever on cassette. We have to do
10
this.
disc set.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's great. So we did. We asked our amazing listeners, you guys, should CDs die? Is it time? Is it time to lay the compact disc to rest?
We got a ton of replies. We can't read all these. We can try to, but these are looking at these the people who have replied to these statements and these questions we put up online. I'm seeing other music producers and songwriters. I'm seeing fans. I'm seeing band members. I'm seeing random relatives of mine and yours. I'm seeing just a whole bunch of people that range in professions. Professional drummers here. Let's just dive in. Let's talk about these. This first one I'm looking at. Brooks Music Official says, nope, they should not die. CDs provide the satisfaction of ownership, sense of accomplishment after you listen to an entire album. I agree with that. Plus, you don't have to use your phone to listen, and there's a bunch of extra artwork and sometimes lyrics and statements from the band with the CD inserts. That's what we just said.
Okay.
I agree with you, Brooks.
So we've got Colt Caparoon. Shout out to Colt. I know he's listening. We love you. Really great producer, engineer. He says, yes, evolve or lose. You're not going to stop CDs from dying, so you might as well focus your energy on what's next.
Interesting. Carberry Audio says, no, it shouldn't die. The sound quality is so much better than the smashed MP3 with no resolution in the low end or high end, and is squished with no dynamics, which is what we talked about.
Yeah. Can the average listener tell? I would say no.
Right, but apparently this Carberry Audio guy can.
Kitty Catty 09 says, no, the sound quality on CDs is way better. Same thing. They don't sound nearly as good as an MP3. And then she makes this great analogy that you just did about having a book, right? Like having a digital version of a book is great, but there's just something about flipping through the pages. Same thing with CDs. It's tangible.
Adam, I guess, with 3 S's, Adam, I guess, says, no, there's nothing better than a physical copy of anything.
Rachel Matthews, I just like having a physical copy of my music.
I wonder if Adam, I guess, still gets the phone book. He says a physical copy of anything. Nothing better than the physical copy of anything. So I wonder if he still gets a phone book delivered to his house. Like, yes, Yellow Pages.
I do have to, they do bring a physical copy of the Yellow Book to my house.
I don't know why they still do that.
I don't ever see it.
How are they making money?
And it sits out there and gets rained on, and then my dog eats it up, and then there's pages of Yellow Book everywhere. And it's like, oh, they brought the Yellow Book again.
Steven Taylor, he's a friend of mine and a professional drummer, does drum lessons online. Steven's Drum Shed, he says, they are fantastic Frisbees and coasters. They work really well. I think they should keep making them for those 2 reasons alone. So that is good. You can use them as a coaster on your coffee table.
S-Jet Folk, absolutely not. They're great for getting high quality digital copies of music while still having all the advantages of a physical copy.
Man, switching over to, it looks like Facebook, Daniel Estrella says, in a world where digital audio is the standard in convenience, quality, portability, and accessibility, I'd say sayonara to a bygone era of media storage. Long live the digillution. That's a cool word. Also, bring vinyl back.
So a lot of people really share his sentiment, though.
Agreed.
I know vinyl stores are popping up everywhere now. Vinyl manufacturers are reopening. It's becoming a thing because people do want a tangible,
they want something
analog,
to hold.
Version of their music.
We're not going to get into the analog versus digital war quite yet. We're going to do a whole new podcast on that one, just explaining it and let you decide on your own. But there are a lot of people, like you were saying, that think analog is where it's at. It's better. And it could be, in some instances, better, but definitely is something to hold on to, something tangible, because they are huge discs of vinyl in big cardboard squares.
The artwork is awesome. Alexander Ramo, And I'm going to paraphrase this one a little bit. He says, while the market is moving more towards digital media and away from physical media, although vinyl is making a comeback, it's sad to see big stores like Best Buy and FYE and all of those companies either no longer selling CDs or just not hardly selling any. However, he believes that they should not die. It adds so much more to the album, like the songbook or the booklet where you can read the lyrics or look at the artwork. And he says something just as, just special about reading messages from the bands, learning the band members' names. Those little artistic booklets were just as important to the emotion of an album as the music was. And that was always what I loved. Getting a CD home, taking the wrapper off, removing that really obnoxious piece of clear sticker to get into it.
Oh, yeah, pain in the butt.
Just so that you could, like the smell of a new CD. You put it in, and as it's playing, you're reading along to the lyrics. You're looking for typos. If you're me,
yeah, same.
What are the band members' names? Who did they thank?
Right.
All those things.
I loved all of that stuff. And if they had pictures, even better. Just like seeing some bands would put pictures of the recording studio in there, and I would, just being a nerd, love looking at that. Man, we can't read all these comments. Let's do the nutshells here. I see a lot of no's.
Jennifer Walter says no. Cole Gable says yes, I think they should die.
Nathan Eisner says, I still love and purchase CDs. Not to say that I don't love the convenience of modern streaming services, but there's something to be told about a CD, vinyl, cassette, and yes, even 8 tracks of being able to sit there and listen to a whole album from the back and having the booklet and insert, kind of like the same thing we've been talking about. So he's kind of going both ways with that. Logan Robertson also says, you can't autograph an MP3.
Darren Osborne shares the same sentiment. Leanne Bryant.
Oh, I like hers. She actually says, I wish that they had a code of some sort on them to download. So if you buy the CD, you also get a download code.
Do you remember this?
Well, I know a lot of people have done this. Even download cards were in the inserts, and they do that with DVDs and Blu-rays too nowadays. When you buy them, like here's your download code for the digital version of the video. I think it's cool, but I think it's genius. I think if you buy the CD, you should be able to have the download code. Which
I had a Switchfoot album, the one with stars on it.
Yeah, good record. I can't think what it's called.
Where that was the first CD I knew of or had heard of where you could get a digital version of the album. But it was so new and so strange, and whatever they were using to host it, it didn't quite work right with what I had, and I could never get it to play, so I could never get the album onto my iPod.
Man, such a weird. I think they should still do that.
Well, they have
if you buy a CD or buy anything that's physical, now that the MP3 revolution has come around, you should be able to get a free download of it. I mean,
totally.
You can rip it anyway legally since you own it. Might as well just throw in a download to track it.
Do you remember when they started doing anti-piracy for CDs? So you couldn't. They tried to make it where you couldn't rip it.
Yeah, I'm like that's bunch of bullcrap because I bought this CD. I want to be able to put this on my MP3 player. I ran into problems with that and got mad. And
that was something that they did with that Switchfoot record was you couldn't rip it. You could get a digital version that you could only listen to on your computer or very specific MP3 players.
Sam Shatu, a entertainment lawyer and lawyer in general, but specialized in entertainment and real estate law, actually owned the first recording studio that I ever was a house engineer for.
Really?
And he chimed in with, I didn't even know CDs still existed. Which I'm like...
So true. Oh. Again, we had to explain what compact disc means. Derek S. Ross, they're a waste of space.
Like, yeah, he makes a claim for reusable flash media being far superior if you don't want to be like reliant on cloud storage on servers or whatever. Carry on the USB stick.
And a lot of them now, the smallest you can even buy them is like 8 gigs. A lot better than 700 megabytes.
And they're cheap.
Craig Arsenault, CDs are no longer practical and most new cars don't even come with CD players.
Hearing that argument a lot. Derek agreed with him. It's like, yep, watching Everything Sucks yesterday, and there's a scene where one of the characters is leafing through a jacket insert that just hit the nostalgia button hard.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the point that Craig makes is just that the booklets, that was the best thing about buying a physical CD.
The Bewildered Man on Twitter said, if I like the full album or love the artist, I'll pick up all forms of media, CD, vinyl, etc., as long as it comes with some sort of digital copy. So there we go.
Again, he does say that he finds himself streaming most of the time. Josiah Nasbaum, nope. Do I use them? Not really, but bands that I really like want to support, I always buy digital, a CD copy, and vinyl. Got to support the artist. So he's saying they should not die just so that there's something extra for fans to buy.
Regan Witten says the same thing. Do not kill off the CDs. Nothing beats having the physical album and being able to flip through the booklet.
Sam, what's his handle here?
Spider Sam I Am.
Spider Sam I Am. No way. I buy digital more now, but nothing can top buying a CD right from the artist. Checking out the booklet. Same thing.
Geek Source Official, which wants to be known as Sir Cal, says, no, absolutely not. One of my favorite things to do is looking at my ever-growing stack of CDs and also vinyl, pulling out the CD, putting it in stereo, and reading along to the lyrics as the album plays. It's a good thing for a rainy day.
Zeke Murphy?
Yeah, that's right.
Says, no, they should not die. I like them because I don't use subscription-based services, mostly because he just doesn't like using subscription-based services.
Chris Panhead says, no, we need CDs to jam out in our house when we're not driving, or we need something to headbang to because not all home CD players can play iTunes.
How many people still have home CD players?
So that's the thing. I mean, they're not going to make CD players if they're not going to make CDs, but as long as people are listening to CDs, they'll still make CD players to be able to play back that sound. I mean, they still make reel-to-reel tape, even though most people aren't recording to that anymore, playing it. So, I mean, someone has to be in the market doing this to keep people happy because someone will buy it. Like our friend Chris Panhead.
Mackenzie Morgenthal, no, having a CD that you can hold in your hands just feels more special than digital. And the only way that she can listen to music in her car as well.
Wyatt Jones says, should they? No. Will they? Probably phase it out. Yes.
Heather H.L. Smith, 1623. That's Heather Smith. No, I know downloads are all the rage, but I'm old school and still like having the physical CD in my hands. Plus, you can't autograph a download, which is something I want to talk about here in a second.
Jeff goes by the name Cellarlight on Twitter, says, hey guys, my name is Steven, by the way. So Steven, whose name is Jeff,
who goes by Cellarlight.
I'm so confused. Says that we should kill the CD because that means I can get them cheaper, which is funny and might be wrong because if they kill the CD, maybe the price of the CD will go up because they'll be rarer. I don't know. Because right now he's like, he can get some of his favorite albums from Walmart for $5 each. Even found the Paramore album Riot at a thrift store for 50 cents. So he's hopefully thinking that they'll become more like VHS tapes where you can kind of find them everywhere for really, really cheap. So yeah, like that just goes to say that, I mean, so many different people from different aspects in their lives have come from different points of view with where they stand on CDs and where they're going to go and what we should do with them.
Right. Well, and something that we glossed over a few times, but that a lot of people said was, you can't autograph an MP3. You can't autograph an MP3. I like buying the CD because I like having something for the band to autograph. And just to put this into perspective, if you have a distribution deal, you could be paying anywhere from $3 to $5 a piece for your CD that you're selling at for $10. So you have a 50% margin. Now, that's for a CD that sales are obviously declining, just so that your fans have something for you to autograph. That's a lot of work and time and effort that goes into duplication,
and
making
money.
the book and printing, and plus they're heavy shipping, having to carry them around. Whereas something like a poster,
you get a photographer, you get a printer, done.
Right. And your markup is much larger. You know, your cost might be as much as 50 cents for a poster that you sell for $5. That's a much, much higher margins. And
you're speaking to the band right now, but I'm like speaking to the consumer. You're not spending 10, 15, 20 bucks on a CD at a concert. You're spending $2 to $10 on a poster or a headshot that you can get autographed if the autograph is what you want.
Right. And it's bigger. It's intended to be a piece of art that you display, unlike a CD that is intended to be something that you
primarily listen to.
Oh, no. I thought that they were just to get autographed and then close it and put it away in a desk and forget you have it.
Right. Or a box with like all your lost teeth from a child and
all your CD collection.
And your retainer.
But there's another medium that's been making a resurgence. We've talked about it. What is it?
Yeah, we already talked about it once, but now it's coming back. Vinyl. Vinyl's coming back. It's a huge thing. It's the sales actually have accounted for 14% of all physical album sales in this last year, 2017. And the top selling vinyl LP is the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club band. So that's like the very top number one selling vinyl album.
I have that one about 10 feet from where you're sitting.
Because of people like you, Jake, that's the number one selling album. And in 2017, 14.32 million albums were sold on vinyl.
And that was up 9% in 2017 from 2016.
Which is the 12th straight year of growth of vinyl album sales.
What is it saying?
It looks like a trend.
Got to put your money in vinyl.
I ain't no genius, but that line's going up.
Rock music by far drives most vinyl album sales, as the genre accounted for 67% of all vinyl album sales in 2017.
So 2/3 of the albums sold in 2017 were rock albums of some sort. And who knows what rock is these days? Because if you look at the rock charts, there's everything from rappers and pop artists as well as rock bands. So I have no idea what rock means these days. But yeah, 2/3 of all albums are rock on vinyl.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. I don't know if it's because of their fans are requesting that. I don't know if it's because the type of labels who these rock bands are on are pushing for vinyl. I don't know.
Honestly, when I listened to As We Ascend's our album, Farewell to Midnight, on vinyl for the first time, it sounds very different. It's maybe the EQ curve on it, the compression, whatever it is, it sounds really good.
And the analog versus digital debate. So let's talk about the top 10 selling vinyl albums in 2017 in the United States. We're not talking about the other countries that you guys are listening to albums in. But here in the U.S., we already talked about the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's number 1. They also have the number 2 slot with Abbey Road.
Now, here we'll jump into a much more modern recording. Number 3 is the soundtrack of Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1 at
Awesome.
62,000.
Awesome Mix Volume 1. That's a great name. Ed Sheeran comes in at number 4 with Divide, which is a little division sign. That's also 62,000. So it's tied right there for number 3 and 4.
Amy Winehouse, Back to Black, is number 5 at 58,000.
Prince and the Revolution, Purple Rain soundtrack, 58,000 at number 6.
Bob Marley and the Wailers, Legend, The Best Of.
That's a good album.
Number 7, 49,000.
I had that on cassette. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, also a good album, 54,000 at number 8.
Soundtrack, La La Land.
That's a good film. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
It's really good. If you're into you can watch it with the family. That's what I'm saying. Not a lot of movies come out these days that you can watch with the family, but you can watch this one with the family.
Oh, well, I've been wanting to see it.
It's good. It's really well put together. You'll either love it or you hate it. I love it.
So that one's at number 9, 49,000.
One of my favorite albums of all time. Number 10, Michael Jackson Thriller, tied with the La La Land soundtrack at 49,000. And those are the best top-selling vinyl albums of last year in the United States. And I think they all deserve it.
And those numbers are just going to continue to grow, especially as CDs are harder and harder to find. And I think it says something about our culture that we enjoy everything being digital. It's very convenient, but we want something about our lives to feel real.
I wonder who the people buying vinyl are. I wonder if they are audiophiles. I mean, I'm sure they are, but are the average high school kids buying vinyl because it's cool? Because they crave that, if you want to call it analog sound, or the physical copies, and they don't want CDs, they want something different. I mean, who are the people buying this? I don't know. I didn't research that. I didn't look at the statistics for the demographics buying these albums.
It's again, I mean, just listening to a vinyl is a very hands-on experience, start to finish. You get a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes of sitting down, listening to it before you have to physically get up and turn the thing over. Like, there's just nothing about it that is...
It's an experience.
Simple, it's like I have to put it on the player. I have to move the needle. I have to set the speed, my revolution. I've got mine has a little knob to make sure that it's playing at the right speed. You can adjust it in case it's playing a little fast or a little slow.
If you've ever played one the wrong speed, it's a lot of fun for the kids. But it's a fun thing for me to sit on my favorite spot on my favorite couch and put on an album and just sit there and listen to it. Don't turn on the TV to have something to distract you. Don't scroll through Instagram. Just sit there and listen to music. It's a different experience. And a lot of the vinyl I have are from my dad's personal collection from when he was my age or younger. And some from people even older than him who have had some. I even have an old Victrola gramophone type thing, a portable one in a little suitcase that has awesome. Like metal discs it plays.
Oh, wow.
Like really, really heavy. It could be, it's interesting, from the early 1900s.
Wow.
Not in English. I should have brought that in. Man, what was I thinking? But and it has a whole little secret compartment of metal needles that it plays. on them.
Is it cranked? Do you have to crank it?
You crank to wind it. The crank is missing, so I just spin it with my finger, which makes for a really interactive experience. But it has there's a little membrane, a little diaphragm on the needle. So when you flip the needle onto it, there's a little thing about bigger than $50 that's like a little thin plastic membrane that the needle's connected to that just vibrates and sounds like this when it plays the music, which is really cool. Yeah, I should show it to you sometime.
You know, I have to say the other thing about it too is when these albums were recorded, a lot of them, as they were recording it, as they were forming those sounds and those tones and EQing it, they knew that people would be listening to it on records because that's all there was at the time.
Right.
And so there's something kind of special about listening to a piece of music that was made to be listened to on this medium. You know, you can listen to the Beatles on iTunes right now and, you know, it's going to sound great.
They didn't know iTunes was going to be around.
Right.
But on the same hand, newsflash, a little spoiler alert, pulling back the curtains, turned up style, these albums that are on vinyl that you're listening to, a lot of them weren't intended to be on vinyl and maybe was like an afterthought or maybe like, hey, we should put this out on vinyl too, since that's a trend. They were recorded in a computer, a lot of them. Like a lot of them were put through Pro Tools. A lot of them were done digitally and then put back into an analog medium like vinyl. So it might not be as pure sounding if you're a purist or an audiophile as original vinyl was, which was recorded on an analog tape, then put onto the analog disc. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
this idea
something to think about.
Of ones and zeros having never touched the music that you're listening to.
Right. Never went through a computer. Weird.
A huge thank you to Real Sound Productions for giving us this platform, editing, mixing, all done by Real Sound Productions. Thank you, Robert, for your awesome research on this topic. I learned a lot. It was really fun looking this stuff up.
Well, I wasn't the only one researching. You helped a lot with that.
It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you to Real Sound again. Thank you to Can O Tambos for sponsoring this episode.
Thank you so much to our listeners for submitting your thoughts on the death of CDs.
We sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but we definitely got the picture. Thanks for submitting your thoughts.
If you have any thoughts or questions or think that we're morons and want to tell us all about it, absolutely hit us up.
Don't invite them to hit us up about that. Now our inbox can be full. Inbox will be full.
Of course, that's on Instagram and Twitter.
At Turned Up Podcast. Or you can hit us up on Facebook.com/Turned Up Podcast. Always on the web, turneduppodcast.com. I want to actually know as well if you listen to vinyl. I'm just curious to see if you do currently, or if you're planning on doing that, or why you think it's a trend. Just my own personal curiosity. I want to know. So hit us up.
Yeah. Do you listen to vinyl, and why? Why do you listen to vinyl?
Or why not if you don't?
Yeah.
Or will you? Or have you? Or do you hear a difference? I don't know. I'm just interested in what you thought about today. Was it too nerdy? Did we get nerdy enough? I don't know. We always like your feedback.
Yes, we do. We love your feedback. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Leave us a rating and a review. Take 2 seconds to let us know how weird Robert's job is taking care of fake babies.
It's not weird, man. It's a necessity.
Of course, as always,
never trust a fart. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Nashville signing out.
Peace.